Hey there, e-commerce Fastlane listeners. I want to take a quick moment and give a shout out to an amazing sponsor, Absolute Web. Now, if you're looking for a powerhouse team to take your Shopify store to the next level, then look no further. Absolute Web is a full-service design and e-commerce development agency. They've been pushing the boundaries of what's possible on Shopify for over 2 decades. Now, whether you need a highly customized design that truly sets your brand apart, a complex integration to kind of streamline your operations, or even a complete site implementation from the ground up, Absolute Web has got you covered. Now, they have an in-house team of UI and UX designers. They have architects. They really are the go-to all-in-one solution for e-commerce brands that really want results and they want them now. And get this, if you're currently on another platform and you're considering to make the switch to Shopify, the experts at Absolute Web have deep experience in migrations too. They'll make the process smooth and painless, and you can start reaping all the benefits of being on Shopify. So if you're ready to build, optimize, or even scale a high-converting e-commerce storefront, head on over to absoluteweb.com and you can learn more about their extensive technical and creative e-commerce services. That's absoluteweb.com. And now back to the show.
You're listening to E-commerce Fastlane, the podcast show to help you build, manage, grow, and scale a successful and thriving company, powered by Shopify. Listen to real conversations with partners and subject matter experts as they share proven practical strategies, platforms, and the best Shopify apps to help you accelerate your business. The time is now for you to improve efficiencies, grow revenue, profit, and lifetime customer loyalty. Please welcome your host, startup founder, and strategic advisor, Steve Hutt.
Welcome back to E-commerce Fastlane. I'm your host, Steve Hutt. Thanks so much for tuning in today. There's so many podcasts. I know you know this, but I truly appreciate the fact that you're picking today's episode. You're going to gain a lot of insights. It's going to be some inspiration. It's kind of a little bit of a departure than my usual kind of app and marketing platform or marketing strategy show. Today's more of an entrepreneurship show, a very community-driven show, because I find that it's a need in the market to inspire and motivate people to kind of, well, what can I build, or what kind of product can I launch on Shopify? And the challenge is that sometimes my shows are more around people that already have a Shopify store and are already looking for, incrementality of how can they get a 1% better in their store. But today, my guest is Vicky, and she is the co-founder of a company. She's the CEO, I'm at, and co-founder and CEO of Dapper Boy, and it's DAPPERBOI.com. And they're a body-inclusive apparel line. Really, they're changing fashion. They really are. They were on Shark Tank. It was an incredible show. They were founded in 2015. So what really started with both Vicky and Charisse is the fact that they found that there was a void in the market. And now they just started this movement now that's fostering this kind of inclusivity and self-expression. And it's so interesting what Dapper Boy is actually doing. They're defying a lot of the odds in the industry. The landscape is really interesting. Originally, they started off as a Kickstarter campaign, and they also had, as I mentioned, a game-changing appearance on Shark Tank. I loved it. It was incredible. They've also had a lot of very significant milestones along the way, probably more we're going to learn about, but they were featured in an award-winning documentary called Show Her the Money. They have also been recognized in the Out 100, the 2023 list, and they're also gaining a lot of acclaim right now in major outlets. You'll see, and we'll talk about in a minute. They're on USA Today, CNN, Forbes, BuzzFeed, and also now they're on E-commerce Fastlane, so that means they're really making it. So I'd love to welcome Vicky to E-commerce Fastlane.
Steve, that was the best introduction. Thank you so much. It's truly an honor to be on your show here. You're just a pro. Oh, this is so exciting.
Well, you know what? And thank you for coming on the show. Like I said, it's an interesting departure by wanting to chit-chat with entrepreneurs and kind of the roller coaster ride, because it's definitely, you're the quintessential roller coaster ride entrepreneur because, and I know some of the backstory too, which is really wild. Some was brought up on the Shark Tank episode. But so I want to talk a little bit about what inspired both you and Charisse really to take the leap of faith and really start Dapper Boy. Like, this was back in 2015. I'd love if you could kind of share the story behind the identifying the market, the need for that, and then deciding to go all in and kind of fill that void.
Sure. Yeah, it's been a wild ride for sure. So yeah, we launched the brand on Kickstarter in 2015. The idea for Dapper Boy actually started really in 2013. So it's funny because I had no business starting a fashion company whatsoever. If you were to ask like my friends from back home in high school, would Vicky ever start, a fashion line? And they would laugh because my whole life I was shopping in the women's department and I never loved it. I felt, frumpy, unseen, like not confident. And it wasn't until 2010 when I came out to the world and I personally cut my hair is when I started feeling like my authentic self. And with that came with my own personal expression when it came to clothing.
Right.
And so for me, at that time, I was working in the casino industry in management. I was head of the marketing department and I wore suits every day. And it was men's suits, actually. But which is wild. But even before wearing men's suits, the first time I tried on any kind of clothes from the men's department, which was such a scary experience for me, socially and all of that, it was jeans. And it was from Old Navy in particular. And I'll never forget it. I went into, the men's side, tried on the jeans, and it was exactly what I wanted to be, like as for feeling wise.
Right.
It was like that confidence. I finally had the nerve to go shop in that department. How scary, and then from there was, dodging fitting rooms and mainstream stores to go in the men's fitting room versus the women. It's just so crazy. But then, fast forward to my casino days and wearing suits. Our original logo actually had a bow tie in it because the company was going to start with suits because that was the problem I had originally.
Right.
But then at that time at Kickstarter, there was other companies, lesbian owned, coming out at that time that had the same idea. And so I kind of scratched that. We went back to the drawing board and we remembered that very first pair of jeans that I tried on. So we launched the company with jeans. And what gave me the guts to do that is, well, one, my wife is like a fashionista and she was like, everything you wear is unflattering. She thought that she could solve my problems by like going and shopping for me. But we realized those clothes never actually fit my body.
Right.
I'd wear button-ups, even men's button-ups, and I could only button it to my chest and then let the rest out like it was a style because of my booty.
Yeah.
So well, we found at that time there were so many other people that like me that had the same problem. So we said, you know what? Let's just try it. Let's launch on Kickstarter. And so that's how our journey kind of began. And not knowing that world is a whole other thing. But that's how we began.
Oh, that's lovely. And actually, I went to the Kickstarter landing page just to see one of the projects and stuff that you worked on. It's very, very interesting how many backers you had and the amount of money that got pledged. So it was a really good, I say proof of concept, so to speak. And that's the whole benefit of Kickstarter, I believe, is putting something out into the wild, maybe not necessarily having a brand, but not really having a brand yet, and seeing what the market feels about it. And it's very clear that having hundreds of backers putting their money up front without even having a product yet, and with a delayed shipping in the future, it was so interesting. So can you talk a little bit about your expectations of wanting to do Kickstarter? And then did you feel that was a successful campaign? And then did that fuel you on your next step?
Oh, definitely. That was the catalyst to the next step. But I think that for us, it wasn't so scary. Well, let me back it up even further. So trying to find a manufacturer in this world of not knowing this language was interesting. So we had so many hangups. It's not a simple Google search. And for what we did find, people were like, do you even know what you're talking about? We're not interested. And I can't even tell you the amount of times I was hung up on. But there was one manufacturer that was like, he wrote me back an email and said, I think you're really onto something here. I'd like to hook you up with our pattern maker to get this process started. And so we had gone through a ridiculous amount, now that I know what I know now, of time to create the first sample. It took us 6 months, which is a long time to go through the sampling process. But like for us, it was like we were making this truly hybrid product. Like women's jeans to this day still don't have functional pockets. It's crazy that that's like a revolutionary thing that we offer,
Yeah.
And men's jeans at the time didn't have like the stretch and comfort. There's a lot of skinny jeans out there now and it's a little bit different, but still, that fit is what they didn't have. Anyone with like curves really just can't fit into the men's department stuff, period, even to this day.
Right.
And then another huge thing with us, the other check in this box was size inclusivity. As a plus size person myself, I can't find my size in mainstream stores. And so I go to a plus size section. I'm the smallest size, but like it's so ill fitting. Right. And so that was another thing that we wanted to do. And when you're typically going out there and you have a size model and there's a grading process with your size. And typically it's like a 36, like the middle ground. But what we did different was I was the middle ground. And that's how we were able to grade both sides of the pattern, because I was the actual fit model, which was a unique thing to do that we learned, through that sampling process.
Oh, very cool. That's an interesting way of doing it.
Right. Yes. So then we went to Kickstarter, and I had done a ton of research, and Tim Ferriss actually put out this incredible article on how to launch a successful Kickstarter campaign. And we followed that kind of to a T. Okay. And one of the really cool things that launched the brand on Kickstarter that was so successful for us was this flash mob post. And so we had literally gone down the list on Facebook, and we were just, contacting every single person on our list. And we said, hey, we are launching this brand in 10 days. Would you literally just take this post exactly, wrote it for them. We had our launch video and like the link to our Kickstarter page, and everybody all at the same time on the day of the launch, it went off on their feeds. So it was like instant, like tons of traction coming to our site or to our Kickstarter page. And so that really kicked us off. And I remember being so excited, we launched, it was like $10,000 in 10 days. And for us, that was incredible, at that time.
Right.
So that was just the way to do it. And we also did our own PR. We were going on Twitter, finding any writer in any space writing about fashion or gender neutral or androgynous, keywords like that. And we said, hey, we're launching this brand. We wrote our own press release from someone from Fiverr. And that's how we were able to get like entrepreneur.com. And so it was literally my wife and myself just doing everything ourselves. But there was so much learning and great things happening.
I love it. It's an amazing story. And I think Mark Cuban made a comment about this on your Shark Tank episode. I'm going to put a link in the show notes for that, for those that have not seen it. But it's interesting, his comment saying that this is a community challenge right now. You need to work on building your community up. And he argued a bit that as great as your clothes are, and they clearly are solving like a tactical problem of sizing and inclusivity. I get that. But the next part is that the one comment was made, well, are you making a third category? And I think that the answer was, no, I'm not making a third category. I'm just making clothing that are actually gender neutral to a certain degree, but then size inclusivity is kind of where you're fitting in the mix. And then he goes on to saying, well, I believe this is a community-driven kind of activity. And so my question to you is that the case? And then if it truly is a community build, then like what are you doing kind of to foster these kind of like a strong sense of community around Dapper Boy? And then is it really helping connect with your current customers and then maybe new customers?
Right. Yeah, I think it's truly a hybrid answer.
Okay.
And going back to that day and filming Shark Tank, there were so many things I would actually do different. There's a lot of nerves and things going on at the back end when you're going there,
Yeah.
But I would change some of these answers. Man, if I would do it again, maybe they would have invested.
Yeah.
But hey, I'm glad that they didn't at the same time, so I could hold on to a little bit more equity here. But I think the answer is hybrid, and it's starting with community. And that's how we started our brand. And it's like when we launched products in this bootstrap way, I think people just feel that small brand vibe and they want to back it. But I think speaking to our community, meaning the LGBTQ plus community in particular, they've been so shut out of the equation. So like how we were able to communicate to these folks and just resonate with people first was solving the problem. And so like in our videos, we would immediately, like just for the thumb stop effect here, be like, hey, do you have this problem? That was the first question.
Right.
And it showed like that chest gap in button-up shirts,
Yeah.
But then we took it to this like kind of humorous place, because it's like some of these things are ridiculous that we don't even think about.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you walk into a department store, there's the men's section and then there's the women's section. And we don't even think about it because there's so many rules, societal rules and norms based on your gender that we've been just, this is just all we know for so many years. And so by like talking to these people, resonating with them in a humorous way where they feel like they are our friends. And now they feel this new confidence. It's about connecting to folks authentically. I can't stress that enough. And people feeling comfortable enough that like they could see us as their friends, resonating with the problem that we're solving for them. And that's how we got them kind of on board. Right. And then just really being so personal and intentional with everything that we put out there, even our customer support and how it feels like when you're talking to us. And I think that as we scaled the brand, that is how we'll always feel to them, no matter how big we get.
Right.
So I think the next part of this hybrid conversation is, yes, community. And at the same time, as we're building this community, the message needs to be that it's important for a brand like ours to be mainstream. We're not looking to be in the Pride section during the month of June in Target.
Yeah.
Visibility is important. Diversity is important. And so it's just seeing yourself in a mainstream way and realizing that you belong.
Right.
Like that's the most important. It's not about fitting in with everybody. It's truly about belonging. And there's a difference in that.
Yeah.
We have like these crazy stories daily of customers reaching out, how much we're saving, not saving, but changing their lives, their confidence, their self-worth, that they're finally able to get a job they never thought they could get because they're able to be themselves. And when you're able to be yourself, there's just a confidence shift. Yeah. We've had parents reach out to us thanking us that we exist. A mom reached out to us that their 14-year-old daughter was suicidal until they saw a Dapper Boy ad and started smiling again. Like, this is the kind of impact our brand has. And this is like a heavy weight on our shoulders, but this is why we keep going and why we do what we do, because we are making change here. Yeah. And it's like changing history.
I love it. So how do you go about locating the community and interacting with the community? I mean, the one-on-one, kind of success stories and people like directly messaging your company directly, but I know you're on Instagram and Facebook. I mean, you're all, you're everywhere, like, TikTok and YouTube and whatnot. I'm just curious on how you use those channels to find your community and to cultivate that community.
Yeah, I think it started, back in the day too on Facebook. Once we started dabbling in paid ad strategy, that really helped us kind of, narrow down these audiences that are engaged, and then kind of expanding and double downing on ad spend, honestly, during that time to reach more people. And then it's like really a lot of more so word of mouth. And, in our emails, we're never shy to constantly be emailing. I know a lot of us, and we've worked together with a lot of other queer brands, and we talked about like, are we bothering you by emailing you so many times? But for us, like, the market is so saturated and you just want to constantly be, front and center. And so it's not just salesy kind of stuff. We're putting out like great content on confidence building and, how to style yourself. And like, the content is so important in how we're speaking to people and how we're resonating. It's not just pushing a sale. It's like pushing a lifestyle and confidence.
Love that. I know on YouTube, I checked too this morning, and I see that 8 days ago, to be honest with you, as of today's recording, that you are releasing a series called the Transformation Series. And
yes.
Do you want to talk a little bit about that and what the plan is?
Yeah, for sure. So we ran some contests just as a test to see who would be interested, because we get all the time people say, how can I be a Dapper Boy model? And it's, as a bootstrap brand and cash flow tight, it's not always easy to pay, models and things like that. Our videos came from friends that were willing to volunteer their time, and so we were like, okay, well, how can we do this in an impactful way and get the community involved? So we launched a model contest. So people would, and we've done this 2 years now, but we decided to do something different with the winner this time. And so what we would do is put out a 3-week campaign and say, okay, submit your photos, and you get your own private link and you put it out there, and the people vote. Dapper Boy fans, your friends. And this one person in the latest round, she got over 11,000 votes.
Oh, wow.
Which is like a lot. She's putting on TikTok. She was going to a Beyonce concert and was just airdropping people her link to vote for her, like putting up signs, like she was that dedicated.
Oh, wow.
It was so cool. And so the winner, we picked top 3, and the second and third place got gift cards and, Dapper Boy clothes. But the number one winner gets a trip to San Diego to actually hang out with us for the day, do a photo shoot. Oh. But we decided to change this up a little bit. We hired a local San Diego influencer that's in our space too. And she came around and just followed us with her video camera the whole day to launch this series. And it was interesting because you could see us sitting on the couch in the beginning, in this winner in particular named Yesenia, in her like personal style and how she became, in her confident self. And then we took her to get a haircut, and, you could just see her confidence building all day long, to the end where she's in her own Dapper Boy, doing a styling session with also another influencer that we flew out from Philly that's well known, in our community, was such a cool thing. And she was like learning these tips on how to style her Dapper Boy clothes. And then again, ending in this, her own Dapper Boy photo shoot. And then also reconnecting with all the Dapper Boy models that we use very frequently, which are close friends, here that you've seen on a lot of our ads for years.
Yeah.
And so she, by the end of the day, she was just on this high. We genuinely like connected as like friends even and just seeing her confidence boost and like even where she is in her post today, it's just so cool. And this series is that, and it's connecting, and it's like our own Queer Eye show.
Yeah.
And so we're going to be launching another model contest soon and doing this again and just continuing with this series. And just, again, it's that way of connecting with folks and like that they can be confident in their being themselves.
Yeah, the nice thing too is you're not necessarily repurposing content either through different channels, kind of a pray and spray. I think you're being very intentional. I like the idea of, because in YouTube being owned by Google and giving a lot of preferential treatment and thinking about the organic traffic value that goes with producing content consistently over time. And you've dabbled a bit in YouTube, but now it looks like you're kind of going all in a bit because it seems from an organic reach perspective, and target keywords kind of in your transcript and things. Google really understands and wants to give preferential treatment to YouTube videos in organic search for people looking for anything and any topics around your industry and the problem that you're solving in your industry. That could go for any brand, but particularly I can see it being very impactful for you on the YouTube side. And obviously the Gen Zs, alphas, they tend to be more towards TikTok, and that's their initial kind of starting point for search. There are actually a lot of Gen Zs and alphas are using TikTok as the starting point for all search. They're not going to Google. And so that's interesting. There's another opportunity where, can you make short, snappy, fun videos that are on brand? That the answer is yes. Yes, you can. Yes.
Yeah. And just to go off of that too, is over 50% of Gen Z shopping outside of their gender, and so now we feel like more than ever, it's our time. And so yes, connecting on TikTok and all those are so crucial.
Yeah. So I want to talk more about the Shark Tank. It's a really exciting topic. I mean, obviously it's a primetime show that's in, I don't know how many seasons there are now. It's ridiculous. The amount of following they have. ABC's been just crushing with this show. And I have quite a bit of content even on e-commerce Fastlane, talking about all the deals and things that have closed and not. But I guess for me, I'd love to hear kind of the insider scoop. If you have anything you can share that you think could be impactful, or, you mentioned a moment ago that, hey, if I could go back in time, I wouldn't have said this, that, and the next thing. But that's just kind of how it played out based on the edit of the show and the fact that you got on a live version. But any behind the scenes kind of experience that you can share and how you believe, even though you didn't get a deal, how you believe it's impacted the ongoing trajectory of Dapper Boy.
Yeah, for sure. And, it's crazy because what you see on TV and it's that hall, that you're walking down and the music is on, that was very real. And that hall felt like an eternity.
I bet.
Walking up on the stage.
Oh.
But can you imagine? I mean, we are so grateful and lucky because Charisse and I are holding hands walking down this
aisle,
and that in itself is so huge for a mainstream show like Shark Tank to be able to see this LGBTQ plus, couple and company on their show. It's like amazing. So like the impact from that show, and I will tell this one quick story here. Because it is so impactful. So we had someone reach out to us to let us know, she saw the Shark Tank episode and that she had an estranged relationship from her father due to her lifestyle. Right. And so he was an avid Shark Tank watcher. And she said, I just want to thank you because we haven't spoken in years. And this just opened up a line of communication. He literally texted her 3 words, check out Dapper Boy. And so like, that's the kind of, to be on a mainstream show, to connect in that way, just to open up conversations that he could actually see, like he thought of his daughter. There's always somebody you think about, but to connect in that way is so monumental, and so I always share that story just because that is what this is about. Being on a mainstream show, no, we didn't get a deal, but like the impact that this has for our brand, the, legitimacy it adds to our brand,
100%.
As we scale, and go mainstream is so key.
Yeah.
But lessons learned though, I think again, and this is something that, I now advise founders, and I'm still on this journey here, but it's a lesson learned, is like sometimes you got to get out of your own way. When you're talking to investors, including celebrity investors here, you're not asking for money for yourself. You're asking for your company and all your customers. And so that is such a huge lesson for me. Going into that, there's so many nerves, and you're just like, at that point too, we were going through some crazy times, and what we revealed on the show is we were down, to our last amount of money here. COVID delays killed us. We were scaling over $1 million a year, just bootstrapped. And then COVID hit us, delays happened, this pre-order model was not working. And so this felt like a desperate place. That is not a place I wanted to come from. So I think just answering answers, differently, and not coming from and obviously it's TV and they want the drama and they want all the personal information, things I would never share with an investor, on their actual pitch call, but like remembering what we're really there for.
Yeah. I want to pivot a bit into, if you don't mind, into choosing Shopify as your e-commerce platform. I'm trying to understand the why behind that. I mean, it seems obvious that it's kind of like the default install for most people this day and age, but is there anything unique about Shopify as the reasons why you made that choice? And then is there any notable pieces of technology? I think there's going to be some kind of techie people that are listening or already have an existing brand. They're like, hey, Dapper Boy's doing their thing. What choices did they make with their build? They chose Shopify. I believe you're on Plus. You've kind of done your thing. So it's now like, what other piece of technology have you added on that just are overall your brand experience?
When I think back to why we chose Shopify, it was really because they had this, at the time, this is 2015 when we chose the platform, they had just a wealth of information in how to start a brand. And it gave me confidence to make that move.
Right.
And then for us, it was, again, like going from Kickstarter to Shopify. After Kickstarter, we didn't know, after we sold out of those jeans, we were like, okay, how do we continue this brand? We don't have any money again, and learning again about margins and how much we should have actually charged for jeans at that point with such a small production to be able to invest in other productions. It was a lesson learned too. But going to Shopify, we were like, okay, well, how do we continue this brand? And so what we did was we kind of kept that same pre-order Kickstarter model. So how we did it was when we went on Shopify, and I think an app we used, like Pre-order Globo. I think it was Pre-order Globo at the time.
Okay.
And so we would, for example, have a button-up shirt, literally one color. And we would say, hey, everybody, get in on this campaign. It's 3 weeks only for pre-orders.
Right.
We only have 300, and we're going to offer you intro pricing. And so that really created FOMO for all these customers to come on board, because they knew we would, one, sell out. It's a unique product that we're solving a problem for. Again, that FOMO is key, especially with intro pricing. So we had sold, imagine again, going from Kickstarter to not having any sales now for the whole year, wondering if we should even do this again. And then launching our first product on Shopify being the button-up shirt and doing like $30,000 in 3 weeks from, going from nothing. So that was like the model and how we scaled this brand. And so eventually after that one product, and then the product was delivered in 6 to 12 weeks, which is not ideal in an Amazon Prime delivery kind of world that we're living in. But because we were so unique in solving this problem, people were willing to wait. And that's how we created this, again, this community, loyal customers waiting for every product drop, because again, they knew we'd sell out. So it was just FOMO was so key, and doing these videos that was relating. And so we came to the point again when we were scaling 2020. I think we went from 2019, like $540,000 to $1 million in 2020, 1.2 in 2021. We were doing like 185K, in a month. Again, just a very, very small team. And just launching every week, we'd say, okay, we have 3 new color button-ups. And the following week, we're going to watch a new wash of jeans. And it was always a complementary look that we were building each month. And that's how we were able to bootstrap, this brand, and how we, utilize Shopify and all the apps within the Shopify store to do that.
And I noticed too that you've been intentional too on making sure you have some accessibility taken care of there for visually impaired people that need better navigation and colors and just images and things. I think that's a really smart choice to have on your website. Just number one, you're allowing yourself to be open to all types of people that could come to the website if they are visually impaired or other types of impairments. That's the nice thing about that app. It actually covers that. I've also noticed that you also have a really neat solution with your mobile app where you're saying, hey, give us your phone number and then you can get a certain deal. And then I guess there's ways of scanning. You can use a QR code. You want to talk a bit about the intention behind wanting to build that?
Yeah. And so we utilize TapCart for that. And the intention behind that really, again, it's community. At the same time, these are like the very like hardcore Dapper Boy customers.
Right.
And we're able to do with that exclusive drops or early drops.
Right.
That's how we typically do it.
Yeah.
Our intention, what we always do is we typically for us, we drop new products on a Thursday and that goes to VIP customers or app users. And so that again, like drives people to download the app. And app, what's really cool about that too, I mean, we also do SMS, of course, but with the app, you can do unlimited blasts through the app messages,
right.
and
push notifications.
App notifications.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. Exactly. And so we definitely utilize that feature. But again, like there's just cool things you could do with the app. You can put up specific content only for app users, things like that. So again, it's that feeling of exclusivity and loyalty.
Yeah, I'd add too, it's really neat that it's because with a dedicated app, it's a lot faster and snappier because it's like it's locally hosted on your phone. I mean, it's a big ask to a certain degree to get someone to want to download an app on their phone versus, let me choose to go there when I want to. So it seems like someone would be definitely a brand evangelist, so to speak, if they're downloading the app. And the key is like, how do we keep people? I think there's a whole separate podcast around about how do we maintain engagement levels with a fashion mobile app. And it's an interesting conversation. And TapCart has a really great product for sure. Plobal's out there. There's a few others that are doing their thing. Yep. I think at the end of the day, I think if you are producing exclusive content, just written content without no call to action for buying, but just part of the community, just things that you want to educate people on, I think that's really impactful. I love the idea of having exclusive drops, the FOMO side of it for VIP kind of app customers only. That's very smart. Once again, you're trying to figure out a direct line of communication. I think this whole conversation is around the product is fantastic and it's solving a need, but then the flip side, as Mark Cuban mentioned it, and you knew it all along, it's really about the community and how we stay strong together and build this community. And part of it is being with your customer at the right place at the right time. Some could be on their phone in your dedicated app. Those are the hardcores. The rest could be through social media individually. You're making choices about, so just multi-channel approach, how you get out there and how you communicate with your customers.
Definitely. And it's interesting too, like how videos are even cut up based on the platform it's on. Yes. Our Instagram video might be completely different from our TikTok video. It might be shot all the same way, but it's like how it's cut and how it resonates with like those audiences.
Yeah. So I guess kind of my final thoughts and things, and I'd love to get your feedback on it. I think there's a lot of, I would say, misrepresented people out there that are entrepreneurial. They feel, and they're going to be inspired by you, but especially on this episode, they're going to see the Shark Tank episode. They've not seen it. They're seeing what you're doing and what you and your wife are building. I think this is fantastic, but I think there's a lot of people that are also 2 or 3 years behind you right now or more. And they're just like, hey, I'm excited. This is where I self-identify, but I believe I have entrepreneurial roots. And so what do you believe kind of like the next steps are for them to feel because entrepreneurship, as you know, is very lonely. And it's just like, and I'd argue probably even in underrepresented communities, it's even lonelier because the community appears to be smaller. So I just want your thought process around what could entrepreneurs do that identify in that community as their potential next steps.
Yeah, I think connecting is everything. I have a lot of advice in this category just because of everything we've experienced along the way here. For me personally, it was not only getting out of my own way, like I said earlier, but it's, I felt like I had to prove myself and learn everything from the ground up, which was great. It was great, but I wasn't connecting with my community early on. I felt like I had to do it in order to like qualify for conversations, with investors, with people. And so I would say what I kick myself for personally is not connecting early and often. And not only with customers, it's with people that have done this before that can help you. And it can start within your community. Not everybody. And I took this workshop, Andrea Quinn workshop, women's workshop. Okay. It was so impactful to me. And she says it, not everybody are your people. Find your people. You don't have to take the time and convince folks to believe in you. So it's like taking the time to actually connect, go to conferences, do all the things, read, just getting the confidence to take the very first step is a big deal. And it doesn't have to be so overwhelming. You could take one step at a time, because that's just one step closer to getting to your dreams.
Yeah.
And we're still along that ride here. It can be a long one and a lonely one, of course, but I wouldn't take it back for a second. We're 9 years in, we're still fundraising, doing all of those things, but I wouldn't have it any way, because this gives me that flexible life of and fulfillment that I am making an impact. And so again, it's getting out of your own way. It's connecting with folks, your people, because there are some ride or dies out there that want to help you in every way. And then eventually you'll be able to pay it forward. My goal, after with Dapper Boy, I want to pay it forward. I want to invest in people like I was, looking for this. And so it's just exciting, and just get started.
Yeah. And I know the old saying, they say, you can't be everything to everybody, because you just you have to stay in your lane and know what problem you're solving and what community you identify with, and kind of stay in that lane and focus on that. And I think that's a good takeaway for today. It's just consistency over time, understanding where you fit in the market, being authentic, being a community-driven person, helping and sharing, contributing to others, learning from others, humble student, having some self-awareness about where you fit in the world. I think that kind of personality it eludes a lot. People are, I think, really attracted to those sorts of people. And you clearly are one of them, because we had a pre-chat just before recording, and you're a fantastic person. You're lovely. And I've really enjoyed today's recording. I wish you tremendous success and continue growing this business. I'm hoping today's episode was fun for you. I'm hoping those listening today, the same idea. Hopefully you're inspired that, hey, there is opportunity still in today to build something meaningful. You got to put in the work, but you got to be willing to learn from others and focus on your community and adapt and pivot as needed. So this has been a lovely recording.
Well, thank you, Steve. It's been truly a pleasure. I really mean that genuinely. You're a great host, and what you are doing is impactful as well. Yeah. So thank you, and let's keep doing this thing together.
You got it. All right. Have yourself a great afternoon.
You too. Thank you.
All right. Well, that's it for today's episode. I'd like to thank you personally for being a loyal listener of E-commerce Fastlane. It's my hope that this podcast is offering you a ton of value through growth strategies, tactics, and exclusive insider tips on the best Shopify apps and marketing platforms, all with my personal goal to help you build, manage, grow, and scale a successful and thriving company powered by Shopify. Thanks for investing some time today and listening to the show. I'm so proud and excited that you have a growth mindset and are a constant learner. I truly appreciate you and your entrepreneurial journey. Enjoy the rest of the week and keep thriving with Shopify.